Okay. This is our presentation on German social life. The reason we chose German social life, when we first met, we felt our cultures of Mexico and America were quite similar in some ways. So we were looking for a culture that we thought was pretty different from ours, and then we can kind of see those differences and compare and contrast. And also, with German social life in Europe, nobody really had any good knowledge prior to our interview that we did. And me personally, I didn't know anything about Germany. And so we thought it'd be a good topic to be educated on and be able to compare it to our cultures. And this is who we interviewed. This is Tobias. He is a German citizen. He is on a study abroad at UDEM. He is in their master's program for engineering and industrial management.
Tips and daily routines.
My bad.
No, you're good. So there isn't a specific number of times that German friends meet, typically during a week. It depends on things that they have going on, whether that be like school, work, or just anything really with their day-to-day lives. Um, so when they do meet, though, it's usually planned in advance rather than spontaneous. A lot of times, Tobias was saying that it's more of on the fly that they meet with their friends. It's planned. Some students hang out briefly after school for coffee or to study together, but most social time happens on weekends when they're typically less during the week with the rest of their plans. Friendships in Germany tend to be more seasonal rather based like by seasonal we mean like based in stages of life. So Tobias was saying that he had friends, he had like his high school friend group, his college friend group, and maybe work friend groups. Typically, he was saying they don't necessarily have the same friends throughout a whole lifetime. It kind of comes and goes. In college or the workplace, new friendship usually form around shared routines, classes, or professional goals. While not all friendships last forever, Germans value genuine connection and tend to invest deeply in their friends they currently have. German students usually hang out more on weekends since weekdays are filled with school. Homework or part-time jobs typically take a lot of their time, so socializing is seen as a way to relax after a busy week. So weekends often include meeting up with friends for a coffee, going to parties. He said they'd go to clubs or they'd attend local events. It's not very common to invite people into your home in German culture, um, unless you're already really close friends with them. Instead, students prefer to meet in public places like bars, cafes, or clubs where the atmosphere is more social and open and you're not really inviting someone too deep into your personal space. Outdoor meetups and parks are also very popular during the warm months. Younger students typically hang out in larger friend groups because school creates a tight social circle. As people grow older and move into university or the work life, friend groups tend to shrink. Older students often prefer smaller gatherings or one-on-one meetups where they can have deeper conversations and more personal connections.
And building off of that, friendships in Germany, they can vary in length and how often new friends are made. One of the biggest ways of meeting friends in Germany that Tobias mentioned to us was through sport clubs. He said there's multiple in every village where he grew up. There was multiple, like soccer, any common European sport. Those friends he would make from a young age and kind of go through the early stages of school with them. So that'd be his first way of making friends. And then outside of sports, meeting people through school and university have other ways of making friendships. But as Jay mentioned, in the German culture, people really value their friendships and their real genuine relationships. So depending on the person, usually it will last for quite some time. And with Tobias being an exchange student going to Mexico, there are a few challenges, but really not as many. He does live with six other European roommates, so he's not alone in that sense. And he also mentioned how he was kind of surprised how easy it was to connect with people in Mexico. One of those challenges, though, however, is he said he has not perfected his Spanish. So, having to go back and forth between languages can be challenging at times. Maybe he won't pick up everything. There is common ground, though. He said everyone does speak English, so that does help him. And something we all found interesting was how different it was. He mentioned being a student in Germany compared to Mexico. In Germany, he said, um, you kind of just get told what the class is about, and as long as you show up to take the final exam, they don't really require you to show up throughout the entire year. In Mexico, he said it feels a lot stricter. Teachers have everybody more involved. There's more homework, and he even said here in this quote, it feels like they're really controlling it, as in the professors and teachers there.
Now we have the section 2, social activities and hobbies. Many German students like to spend their weekends going out with friends, like they often have parties, have drinks, or meet for coffee. Some even visit their parents on weekend to do laundry. And here in German, sports are also a big part of student life. Why? Because being part of a sport clubs helps people make friends and build long-term connections. So at first, German students, well, usually meet in public places like coffees, bars, or sport events. But once they become closer friends, they prefer to meet at home for casual gatherings. And talking about the festivals and tradition, Germany has many holidays that bring people together. For example, the Oktoberfest is one of the biggest. And it's interesting because these events are usually shared with friends rather than the whole family. Finally, talking about the music, well, the young Germans listen to a mix of international pop, rock, indie, and electronic music, but compared to Mexico, it's very different because in Mexico, reggaeton and Latin music are much more in common, and he says that prefer reggaeton than the music that usually listen in German.
In section 3, social norms and difference. In Mexico, meals are very social and great way to make friends, unlike in Germany, where eating is quicker and less about conversation. In Germany, people value privacy, order, and respect, and they tend to be direct when they are speaking. Punctuality is very important. It shows respect, while in Mexico, time feels more flexible. What most missed about Germany is the structure and the small, calm gatherings with close friends. Finally, Germans don't usually talk to strangers, but in Mexico, people are much open and friendly, which is something really nice. He decided to study a semester abroad and choose Mexico because of his previous positive experience with Mexicans, culture, and people. The biggest difference between Germans and Mexicans is how friendly and approachable people are in Mexico. In Germany, it's harder to talk with to strangers. In rural Germany, people people mostly use cars, while in cities, public transportation and trains are more common for travel. He was surprised that Mexicans are more spontaneous in social situations, while Germans prefer to be more organized.
Right. So for Tobias, like his main motivation to for coming to Mexico was that he was study also abroad, I think in Florida, and he stayed with them like with the Mexican family. So he got to know a little bit about the culture of Mexico. So he chose to come here and experience it more firsthand. Also, like biggest difference between German and Mexicans, as Alejandro said, it was like the way we engage with people. Like usually Germans are more aloof and they don't small talk with strangers, as opposed to Mexico where people are more approachable. Also, like there's a difference between like the German countryside and the cities when it comes to transportation. Like usually on the countryside where Tobias is from, like in his village, he usually needs his car to move around. And on the cities, it's more common to use public transportation, for example, buses. or even a train, like to move around other cities in Europe. And his big surprise was like people are really spontaneous, as Alejandro mentioned. And when it comes to social gatherings, like they usually just come like the same day you can organize a party or a celebration. And in Germany, people prefer to be far more organized and plan ahead.
And that's our presentation on German social life.